Starting recording, and we are rolling.
All right. Three, two, one. My name is Jack Marchbanks, host of WCBE's Jazz Sunday here in Central Ohio. But this week and the weeks ahead leading up to the Tri-C Jazz Fest, we're looking to the North Coast, the land, as I refer to it in most of modern American culture. And I have the great privilege of speaking with the newly installed director of the Tri-C Jazz Festival, Mr. Orlando Watson. Mr. Watson, so gracious of you to take time to talk to us today.
Man, I appreciate you having me, sir. It's an honor.
Yeah. Oh,
You
well,
the
no.
legend. You the real legend here.
No. I just have been
Sir.
around a long time. When you're around a long time, they start to say, "Oh, legend, old head," all those good things. But the fact of the matter is that you have the great honor and privilege to lead one of the premier jazz festivals, not just in um, the United States, but the world. How does that weight come down on your shoulders? It's an honor, but at the same time, I'm sure you're saying, I know I've done festivals and I've done events, I've produced plays, and the adrenaline is running, and you're pumped up at the same time. You're kind of anxious.
Yeah, yeah, all of it. I feel everything,
Yeah,
every piece of it.
yes,
You
sir.
can imagine. I'm definitely honored, first and foremost. I worked alongside Terry Pond Tremblay for 3 years before I left Pittsburgh. So I learned a lot from her, man. I'm really just standing on her shoulders, her foundation, Tom Horning's foundation, and just really trying to keep the culture alive while expanding the demographic of the audience and the sound.
Yes.
Whereas it is it's an honor, privilege, a challenge. Um, but I'm motivated more than anything. I feel very revved up and inspired to really shine a light on Ohio, Northeast Ohio. So
Well, I'm glad you said that,
yeah,
and we're rooting for you not just here in Columbus, but the entire jazz community around the Great Lakes region. One of the things someone said to Christian McBride, I think at Terry Trembley's,
mm,
celebration back
mhm.
in December, was, "Well, what about Terry? Are we going to miss her?" He said, it's kind of hard to leave the jazz world because it's small, but it's
Mhm.
getting larger and larger. And what I'm excited about here in Central Ohio, I'm sure you're seeing it also in the greater Cleveland area, is that young people are being attracted to jazz,
Oh man.
Orlando, and that's exciting. So let's talk about Cleveland's jazz heritage and its icons and how you're parlaying that to attract more people to more young people, especially, the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas to jazz.
Oh yeah, man. So that kind of ties into my first response, man. Just building on the heritage, and for me, as a programmer, as a curator, an executive, it's imperative to have the Ron Carters, the Kurt Ellings, the Dominic Farinacci's, the traditional jazz, right? The avant-garde, big band swing, ragtime, you name it. We're gonna have it here at Tri-C every year that I'm in this seat. However, when I came on board, it was very clearly communicated to me by the president and that office that they would love to see more jazz adjacent programming as well, which speaks to the Ohio Players and Duran Bernard. And, Hub's Groove is doing a tribute to Gerald and Sean Levert, which is,
Yeah.
just Cleveland heritage all over. So,
Royalty, in fact.
oh man, not and literally not just in Cleveland. The
Mhm.
Levert family, Eddie, Gerald, Sean, that's
Yeah.
international right there, man.
Yeah,
So,
just like the Isley brothers.
oh yeah,
We just have two first families of jazz here in Ohio.
yep. That's right. So I'm really honored to do that, and we're an educational festival, right? So Dominic Farinacci, he's the artistic director for the education program, the Tri-C Jazz Academy. So we have those Gen Zers and those, millennials and what have you interested and fully immersed in participating in our 2 week intensive summer camp leading up to the festival, where they'll be playing on the next gen stage. And they can say, I opened for, Tito Puente. I opened for Savion Glover. They're
Yeah.
going on right before him.
Oh,
So
wow.
I didn't have that opportunity. to build my resume that fast, that soon. But anything I can do and anything we can do as an organization to just put our students and the next generation of um, uh, prolific players in the proper position, I'm honored to do that.
And you and your team do a fantastic job of reaching out into the community. You mentioned the Ohio players. If I can just hark back, I grew up in the Dayton area, and one of the
Mm.
reasons all those funk and R&B bands came out of the Miami Valley. Going in the Miami Valley is from Dayton all the way down to Cincinnati with Bootsy and the Isley Brothers.
And
Uh, is that there were great band programs in the public schools.
yep.
And one of the things I noticed, as I left high school and got into college, all those band programs were cut because of financial issues
Funding.
with
Yep.
young people, with the school systems, which continue to this day.
Yep.
And young people had to go elsewhere they didn't have the resources to buy a trombone or buy, a French horn or upright
Hmm.
bass.
Hmm.
So, to a large extent, that created the advent of hip hop, where people had to use records
There you go.
instead of band camps to
There you go.
find their music. And I
Yep.
like your use, Orlando, of the term jazz adjacent. I get some heat sometimes from my radio show where it goes, "Oh, it's not really jazz." And I said, "Hey, it's jazz adjacent." And as a
Right.
great Duke Ellington, the premier composer and icon of the 20th century in jazz, said there's really only two kinds of music:
Oh.
good music and the other kind. And we only play good music.
There you go. That's it. That's it. That's what it boils
And
down
you
to. It's
and
all
the Tri
around.
C Jazz Fest only presents good music. So I'm excited to see Tito Puente Jr. In fact, he's going to be down here in Central Ohio uh, next on the Juneteenth weekend, playing at the Creekside Blues and Jazz Festival. So I'll get to see him 2 weeks in a row. I get
There
to
you go.
talk to him up at Tri C, courtesy of you. Thank you so much for affording me the opportunity to host the Jazz Tent. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we talk about all the great things you're doing with outreach, and Dominic Farinacci. Love Dominic. He does such a great job. But before we talk about this year, let's talk about some of the icons. I went out and said, "Oh, Joe Lovano, he has a new album out." And one thing, people talk here in Central Ohio, "Oh, Rasan Roland Kirk, Nancy Wilson, the great
Mm-hmm.
artists of Central Ohio." What I think Greater Cleveland doesn't do enough is talk about your legends, like, goodness gracious, Albert Eiler, one of the greatest jazz producers ever, and Tommy LaPuma. So
Oh man.
those are the shoulders upon which you stand. But I think people have to realize, that foundation to really stand on those shoulders and reach high into the future.
That's correct. That's correct. And it's funny that you mentioned the Lapumas. I'm literally, as we speak, I'm sitting in the Jill and Tommy Lapuma Center for Creative Arts. So literally, what I'm doing and what we're doing right now wouldn't exist and be possible without the 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 footprint and the foundation that the Albert Eilers and Lapumas and Lavanos. When I was here at Tri C, I studied with um, Kribda, Ernie Kribda,
Wow.
Steve
Yes.
House.
Yes. Yeah.
So I've been in the thick of it, and this is really like a full circle moment for me because I've been coming up and down Woodland for the past 22 years. Starting from when I was about 14. Just trying to
Well,
learn the art form.
let's talk about you a little bit more, Orlando. I know you're like me. You don't like to talk about yourself, but people need to know who you are. Of course, uh, you're stepping in, but you were at the Tri C for a long time before you went to Pittsburgh. Give people your career journey.
Yeah, yeah. So I met Terry Pond Trimley, I believe in New York, after a show that I had with Dominic Farinacci. We were doing his production, Modern Warrior Live, and I was an artist on there, a spoken word artist. And me and Terry met at the after party, and she was like, "I really love what you did," and she was like, "I have uh, Terrence Blanchard coming
Oh,
to." Terrence Brazier coming to
Terrence
Cleveland.
is he's a bad boy.
Man, what if you know, you know, right? So
Yeah.
she asked me if I want to, do some hip hop or
Yeah.
to be on that situation with him, and I absolutely said yes. I kept it professional and kept it cool, but in my mind, I was like, that's Terrence Blanchard, man. I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. I'll figure something out. So that's how we met, and that was I think in 2018, and me working very closely with the Tri-C Jazz Fest team then kind of led into me applying for the social director role. So I always think I kind of had a different vantage point and an advantage, if you will, as an artist and having executive experience as a programmer. So me and Terry worked very well together, and I was here from 2019 to 22 for 3 years, and I cut out to Pittsburgh, and I sat with Janice Burley, the Pittsburgh International Jazz Fest, and I did a few things there. I booked a few people, had a few programs going. So I'm happy to be back home. Though I can't lie about that.
That's great to know. And speaking of the Pittsburgh connection, I have lots of love for the Three Rivers City in the sense that I have
Hmm.
lots of fraternity brothers who are from Pittsburgh. And my uncle lived and actually passed away in Pittsburgh. So I'm very familiar with the Steel City. And what I'm excited about is I see that a brilliant young vocalist, Anya
Yeah,
Nancy from Pittsburgh,
yeah,
is going to be playing this year's Tri-C Jazz Festival.
that's right. Anya is amazing, an emerging jazz vocalist, such a pure voice, right, with a beautiful tone and beautiful songwriting too. People sleep on a great songwriter, but she has a pretty mean pen game, I will say.
Yeah, I
So,
like that pin
yeah,
game. And I to embellish your point, what makes Nina Simone so iconic and eternal is that Nina could write.
she
She
could
wrote
write.
songs. Yeah, she
That's
could
right.
write.
That's right.
So that gives Anya even, I don't want to say it gives her edge, but it gives her a strong grounding,
Yeah,
with this fierce competition among young vocalists such as Samara Joy and
yeah,
Jasmine Horn and all the other young ones out
yeah,
there.
yeah. I think jazz is in great shape right now.
It really
From a
is.
Yeah, from a vocal standpoint and instrumental. I'm sure we can go back and forth about who we
Yeah.
like and admire right now, but you just named a couple: Jasmia, Samara, Lakeisha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's endless. It's endless right now. So
Yeah, the millennials are taking over, and that's great because it's all about handing off the baton,
there you go. There you
and
go.
the baton into the future.
That's right.
So I want to thank you so much for this. But before we close out, I want people here in Central Ohio to know. And by the way, Orlando, pound the drum. I toot the horn for Tri-C. I've been doing it for 14 years. I've
Yes,
been
sir.
going to Tri-C. I think my very first one with my wife was back in 2012 when they had Aretha Franklin and
Ooh.
Trombone Shorty
Oh
and
man.
Esperanza Spalding. It's kind of got you had Aretha Franklin and Diane Krall from the veteran standpoint. Then you had two of the brightest young stars, over a decade ago with trombone and Esperanza. So I've
And
been
look at them now.
telling, yeah, look at them now. They're legends. So
Right.
we're and Tri-C saw that they scoped that they peeped that as the kids say way back in 2012. So going forward into 2026, what do we have on the stove for us here this June 25th through June 27th?
Oh man, it's a lot. We have indoor ticket concerts featuring the likes of Spyro Gyra, Sheila E., Ohio players Dominic Farinacci and John Thomas, Kurt Elling and Fred Hirsch. Who else? Lauren Talese. We have Chris Dave and Stokely. I'm missing somebody.
Oh, we got one
Mono
of my
Neon.
favorite. Yeah, yeah.
Mono Neon, man.
And you have one of my favorite flautists on the Latino side, Nestor Torres. Man, he
Nestor
is out.
Torres.
Yeah, yeah. And Tito Puente Jr.
Yeah, on stage
Magnifico.
together.
Magnifico. So it's going to be great. So I'm excited about that. And we are going to, one of the things I do, I give away a pair of tickets, and I'll be doing that again to some lucky WCBE listeners who I make up says, don't uh, apply or try to win these tickets if you're not going to go to Cleveland. I will hunt you down and make sure I get those tickets back. And good, true story. All the tickets we have given away have been used, and the people who have come to the Tri-C Jazz Festival said, why didn't I know about this? I said, yeah, this is one of the greatest jazz festivals going in the world. And it's because of your unique combination of indoor, acoustically perfect jazz concerts and that outdoor energy you have out there in Public Square.
There you go. And I must say this, speaking of outdoor, this would be the first time where we present national artists on outdoor stages. So
Wow.
on Friday and Saturday, we got our final two acts each night are national artists. So Savion Glover, Tito Puente, Nestor Torres.
Oh
Who
my
else do we
goodness.
got? Weedy Brahma, In the Hands
Wow.
of Time. And we wrapping things up on Saturday with Charles Haynes and the Tabernacle feature Marquise Hill on trumpet. So,
Oh,
man.
that's dazzling. And I remember seeing Salvion Glover way over in San Diego when he was
Mm,
doing, bringing the noise, bringing the funk. And
man,
I can still hear the tapping 25 years later. It was so
man, that's
powerful and
bad, brother.
propulsive. Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. And I've been speaking, everyone, here with Orlando Watson, Tri-C Jazz Fest Executive Director. So thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. We're recording this on June 10th, 2026, but you'll be hearing it later here on some of our Jazz Sunday broadcasts. And thank you so much again, Mr. Watson, for all of your time. And as they say in show business, break a leg.
My man. Thank you, Mr. Marchbanks.
All right, take care, sir.
So, let me stop recording.